We still have them, don't we?
Yeah, a lot of like Sky, if you want a Sky box or whatever. Yeah. And these set-top boxes were basically just devices with that had an encoding system that you could actually bring down the channels from Sky satellite, and make sure that you can watch it. And then you would buy Comhem. Do you remember Comhem?
Of course.
Yeah. So Comhem and Boxer and those guys, they made set-top boxes.
Set-top boxes, yes, the Boxer, yeah.
And Nokia made those set-top boxes. But then they decided, let's make one with the Linux operating system. And that basically meant that we had to take the Mozilla browser and put it on a television screen. And there wasn't that much knowledge in the world of actually doing that. Nokia was leading that. And it was actually here in Sweden because Nokia Home Communications was down in Linköping. I mean, some of the brightest people that I've ever met. Can I mention names on the show?
Yeah, for sure. Go for it.
So Richard Nalgier, Bengt, what's Bengt's surname? I can't remember, but geniuses. And they basically came up with this. And you should see it. It looks like the PlayStation 3. But obviously the project didn't sell fast. And when projects don't sell fast, the shareholders get pissed off and then they close projects down, Yeah. So, and then the project was closed down at Nokia and they sold the whole Nokia Home Communications part. But then they asked me to stay so that I could come over to mobile phones. And then there was a very interesting fusion that happened because in 2003, around about there, do you remember Adobe Flash?
Of course.
So Flash was released on mobile phones. And it was a game changer because all of a sudden you could have an operating system on an operating system, which was much more capable than anything else, because Flash was much more capable than anything else. And what happened then is that everybody started developing Flash apps for mobile phones. And I should have actually had my, can you do searches there?
Yeah. Sure.
If you do a search for the Nokia WSC collaboration, West, do you remember the skateboard brand?
WSC.
Yeah, WSC. We are the superlative conspiracy. Yes, do that. There on the left. So Konrad Bergström and I actually developed that product, which this was in 2004, okay, and it had a full streaming music service in. It had a full Instagram service in. It had a full mapping system in, so you could go and everything like that. We did this here in Sweden. And we developed it in 2004. And I'm not going to mention names here, but I can tell you there are some people that we know that have become very famous and very rich that worked on this project with us, where they might have gotten very good ideas. So that phone was the first phone in the world that actually had like an Instagram service. So you could take photographs and upload it to and this was all done via the WSC Flash platform.
And why didn't it take off more, you think?
Too ahead of its time.
Too early, yeah.
Too early. I mean, and also, I would say Jude Buckley, who is now the managing director of Samsung America. He was at that stage the boss for Phone House Sweden here. I mean, and he believed in us. He really believed us. So Jude actually brought us into all the stores. But there I met a really creative genius, Konrad Bergström, he's creative, but he's also got balls. So he will actually put his money where his mouth is, and he will take risks. So
Konrad is at WE.
He was a project manager at WE.
Yeah,
and then and a sales guy at WE. I can't remember what his role was, but then he came up with the idea of colored headphones. So at first making headphones that aren't black. And in 2004, 2005, and I remember sitting with him in the WSC store in Kungsgatan, and we saw girls. He pointed them out to me. He said, "Look at that girl. She's not interested in the sound quality of the headphone. She wants it to match her clothes. So let's make colored headphones." And that idea of his actually grew and grew and grew until he got a couple of guys together, and they launched Zound Industries in 2009.
So this is Zound Industries' starting point as an idea.
Yeah, well, I mean, Konrad and I, it's his idea, so we've been working very close. But he's a bit like, I don't want to stroke his ego too much, but if he's listening, but he's a bit like a mini version of Elon Musk. He got a few backers that believed in him, and he said, we are going to change the industry. And he launched Zound Industries, and he had that idea. And all of a sudden, you've got this company that's, I think, 2 billion SEK now. I mean, and he did it. He carried everybody. Yes, there was a lot of unhappy people. Yes, there was investors that weren't happy and this and that and this and that. But that was basically one guy that had the idea, and then he surrounded himself with a bunch of really good people that actually could visualize his idea and actually put it in. But this is the first project. And then if you do another search called Nokia, we see color, I would say color phones. Okay. So there. So do you see there? So we see, this was part of Conrad's idea. This is the visual sound project that we did in 2004. Okay. I hope you're showing this on the pod. It will be great. So there we actually, in 2004, when we launched it, this project was done in Sweden, nowhere else in the world. Okay. And what we did is we color-coded the headphones with the mobile phones. I mean, that was revolutionary, guys. I mean, people don't understand that it was revolutionary.
Yeah, now we think it's so obvious.
It's so obvious now, but like, I mean, what did they have before? And Conrad brought and Gregor Hägglin, who's obviously was the CEO and founder of WSC. They brought the headsets, and I brought the mobile phones, and we actually, do you know that all colors of electronics are patented?
Really?
Yeah. So this color is patented and this color is patented. And there's a massive patent warehouse of colors up in Knivsta, a global electronics patent thing. So all these colors were very unique.
What do you think about that? Is that a good thing?
I do not like patenting technology.
Let's not go there now. But I was actually... Can you tell us a little bit like some fly on the wall anecdotes on the conversations when Apple phone was launched, and what was the thinking? And there's been all these different types of storytelling.
And the usual is som björn sagt.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's basically for novices who don't really understand global economics, because it's an easy, digestible thing to decide. It was a completely not. It was a cultural clash.
Yeah,
because Nokia had at that stage, it was one of the top 5 companies in the world. It had very deep pockets. It could go in any direction. It could change operating systems when they wanted to and stuff like that. The big challenge was for Nokia is that it was a European company. Because European companies, we had raging debates. And I remember sitting in meetings, should we collect customer data? Should we collect customer data? Should we actually use the data that people use on, remember the Nokia N95, which was 3 years after the launch of the iPhone, still 10 times better technically, but we were not collecting customer data. So we could not customize the experience. And this was a major ethical debate, and we didn't do it. And our competitors came and they basically just said, okay, firstly, remember the iPhone was launched, and then for 8 months the sales was 0. They didn't sell anything. People forget that. For the first 8 months of the
iPhone. It wasn't a hit.
It wasn't even a hit. It was a disaster. They were getting ready to get kicked out of the operators. But then they had a brainstorm. They launched App Store.
Yeah, the App Store is the real launch.
And during the same event that the App Store launched, what did Steve Jobs do on stage?
I can't remember.
You will remember. He said on stage that Adobe Flash is a critical threat to the security of your mobile phone. And you know what the suckers did? Oh, St. Jobs has spoken. And all of a sudden, nobody wanted to develop for Flash anymore, and they just went over to their shiny new toy. And all of a sudden, the developers just went over there. And this is while Nokia was still struggling with the debate of actually, should we collect information or not? I mean, you have to remember that what I, as a South African, love about the Nordics is, I mean, this is the birthplace of open source. Yeah. This is the birthplace of collaborative computing. And yet Apple, which is the most non-collaborative platform in the world, is such a hit here. It's to me such a contradiction in terms,
So basically, do you think if you want to boil it down to one fundamental topic, where Nokia could have gone wrong, it's about this fundamental topic about how do we understand the data?
No. It's how how we use the data. Not understand it. Understanding data is easy, but
how we use the data.
Can we actually use the data to our benefit without the user's consent? And that was it. And Apple said, Apple came on board and they said, and they had a great browser. I mean, WebKit is a great browser. So it was a superior experience, but that is something that they open source, so anybody could no, they couldn't at that stage implement WebKit on other devices. But we were moral. Nokia was moral. We can't do that. It's unethical, but we have to regulate ourselves. Capitalists that regulate themselves lose. Okay, that's basically it. And the Americans came in and they said that the risk of a court case against us, and we have to pay a fine of $200 million, but we can get a market share of $2 billion. I mean, let's do the court case and let's just collect it. We suck up the data of the customers. We suck it up. And our mutual friend, Mika, and I had major discussions about it because he loves his shiny toys. Yeah. And he's an Apple fanboy, or he was at least at that stage. And he was like, and I told him, but the small choices you make determines the future that you want for yourself. So Nokia, and also then there was our own, Nokia's arrogance was a bit hectic. I remember, I'm not going to mention a name because I actually respect the guy a lot. But in a meeting, I said to him, listen, now they've got the App Store. Now they've got a phone UI that's easy to use. Customers want that. And they've researched that because they've got the customer data in now with that we didn't do. And he said to me in a Finnish accent, which I'm not going to imitate, he said, Erich, in your microcosm, iPhone is a challenge. We're Nokia, you know, and that bit us in the ass. That
so there's a part arrogance, but also part this whole going a different path on a very fundamental view.
It's a fundamental thing: is what future do we want to live in? Do we want to? My greatest tutors in life are my children, Daniel and Clara. I mean, if I want to be part of their life, I need to learn these new things like wokeism and stuff like that and all this stuff because they're part of that society. Yeah. And Daniel told me yesterday, for instance, about a book. Has the podcast started?
Yes. We're running.
So Kim Stanley Robinson, the science fiction writer, brought out a book this year. He wrote Red Mars, Blue Mars, Green Mars, about the terraforming of Mars. But he's just brought out a book now, which is mind-blowing. It's called The Ministry of the Future. It's a science fiction book. And it's basically where under the Paris Accord, the human, there it is. Under the Paris Accord, they create a body of people representing the future generations of the Earth legally, okay, to sit and negotiate at the table with us about the environmental catastrophe. So these people have got a legal obligation to represent the future, okay, of where the Earth is going. And this is a book that affected my son so much, you know, and I want to be part of his world. So, I mean, I start reading these things, and the Ministry of the Future is the choices that we make now is going to affect that. We can't make our shiny toys choices and expect the world to remain the same. If you make your shiny icons and stuff like that, I mean, sorry, you know, how many tortoises that you see with plastic around them drowning or coral reefs is going to convince people that we're doing it wrong, you know.
Wow. With this, Erich, I think we should have a bit of a formal welcoming.
Yes.
Erich, is that the way to say it? Erich Hugo?
Erich François Hugo. It's
Hugo.
Yeah, Hugo.
Yeah. I say Erich Hugo.
Yeah. It sounds like cough medicine.
Yeah, and we've known each other for quite some years. I got to know you through my friend Mikael Klingvall, who's also a partner in crime in Derdax.
Also one of my greatest inspirations. I really admire him.
I can imagine an interesting dinner table.
We've had many of those.
And I can imagine also debates where you don't agree.
No, I mean, I find it very interesting. I mean, we've got similar thoughts, but I mean, I find it sometimes interesting, not Mika specifically, but that's Swedes. I'm half Swedish. Yeah. You know, I've lived here for 25 years, but that Swedes love their bling. Yeah. But they also love being righteous and fair. And just marrying those two things are so difficult.
Yeah.
You know?
But here we have a South African.
Correct.
living in South Africa, growing up in South Africa, meeting the love, moving to Sweden at half time?
27.
And at the same time being quite involved in the tech industry. I mean, like working quite early with tech and, bringing the web, you can almost say, to South Africa, from when we didn't have a internet.
No, correct.
So very early building the internet of South Africa with startups there. And then, of course, in different, from Nokia and then all the way to being part of several startups. There's a cool story about the Marshall headphones and all that. There's a cool story about Most. Now ending up at Delta Track.
Correct.
Delta Track is then, I don't know, you should probably say it yourself, but very interesting company who has SpaceX on the one hand side as a customer. And on the other side, where you're working in the cold chain and how...
SpaceX works in the cold chain too.
Yeah, that's interesting. They work in the cold chain. Touché. Yeah. It's cold in space.
No, it's cold. I mean, it's composite materials. I mean, if they build something new, if they want to ship a product from one part of the United States to another part of the temperature regulation is super important. So we give them the real-time data of what the temperature is.
That's the connection. It's cold chain because it's composite material.
Cold chain makes this world go around.
Okay, we need to talk about and unpack what cold chain means. But there's a lot of interesting stuff here, and I find it really fascinating how you are shaped by one part South African, one part Swedish, and one part Silicon Valley.
And another part totally nuts. I've got some crazy opinions about stuff.
I'm not going to go there, but people will find out on their own.
I'm going to post links afterwards.
But it's great. But let's start. Let's start with what I think when I've talked to you is something that is quite interesting and obviously has shaped you. And for anyone who has read the biography of Elon Musk, literally you are born
in the same hospital.
Like
few months apart
in the same hospitals.
Yes, give me send your money.
But it's the same era, right? And I think you told me sometime what it meant to, in one way growing up with apartheid and that view of apartheid.
Yeah.
Thank you. And that view of the world. And then, it's like someone is all of a sudden opening up this, we were living in a lie, So can you elaborate a little bit about this time?
Well, I'm gonna, I mean, if Elon Musk listens to this, I'm going to reference to him as well, but I hope he does. Yeah. But the 80s in South Africa, in apartheid South Africa, I just told Anders before them, it was a functional alcoholic state. Okay. So when I read Elon Musk's biography, and how his father abused him, it's like, that's basically the story of every single white boy in South Africa. We had a fucked up country which was basically based on oppressing another race, but not one race, but because the Zulus and the Xhosas aren't the same type of, so they're different tribes, But there are 11 other tribes, and how do you bring that? And you're the descendant of the Central European powers, Germany, the Netherlands, some Swedes emigrated to South Africa when Uitwanderers, they went to America, but some of them actually, I can tell you a story about one of the most famous Swedes there, that you love your beer, but that's another story. But that ethics, and here in the 80s, they're repressing a black nation. How do you put that together and remain sane? How do you the only way to solve it in the 80s was drinking. So all the fathers were perpetually drunk, basically, I would say. The physical abuse in South Africa, I love South Africa, it's great, but make no mistake, it was hard. It was really hard. But we had all the shiny toys. We as white people in South Africa lived a right royal life. We ignored the oppression that we did there. We did what the state told us to do. Because we could have, I saw my first computer in 1978, and not only any computer, it was a Wang computer. I don't know, maybe you remember Wang.
No, not really.
Check out Wang, W-A-N-G, Wang computers. So they are one of the first, let's say, multi-networking computers. And my dad worked for the KwaZulu-Natal government. There we go. And they actually had terminals which were connected. And this was in Zululand. This was the computers, the most expensive computers in the world in Zululand.
But you had it because
we had it because we were so privileged, exactly. And then my mom and dad bought us a Atari 2400 in '79. Yeah. You know, we got a ZX Spectrum. Then you had the people that went to the Commodore War.
I had, actually.
You were a Spectrum guy?
Of course. You know, Spectrum guy. And then with my older brother. And we had it all. But it was a lie. So we had the latest computing. We had the latest. I mean, our universities had data hubs in the 80s where people could actually get email addresses already in 88, 89. I mean, who had that? I got my first email address in South Africa, in 92. I mean, and I still actually use it, which was my name and an IP number. That's it. I mean,
but that's early. That's super early.
That is
for
very
most
early.
People.
No, but the thing is that we were so rich, that small group of people. And then all of a sudden, I studied law and didn't make a good success out of it. But then I went to the army because all white boys had to go to the army. And when I came out, it was democracy time and Nelson Mandela had been released. And we kind of like asked ourselves, like, okay, wait, we were waking up. You know, but we were...
You were like 18 around that
No,
age.
at that stage I was 21.
21. Yeah.
21. And do you know the where did I put my paper now?
No, I gave it to you.
I gave it. So there's, and Mika will know this guy. I wrote his name down. So do you know the sociologist Stanley Milgram?
Never heard of him.
Okay, so Stanley Milgram hypothesized that human beings suck. Okay, and they will basically follow orders, you know, and they will hurt other people if there's a person in power telling them to hurt another person. That's basically what it is. You can research Stanley Milgram, and that's what we did. I mean, the government told us this is the way it is, and to protect your life. And then, of course, they dressed it up in the blacks are subhuman and that Russians were going to kill us and all that stuff. But basically, what they did is there he is, Stanley Milgram, and that's the fact of the matter is that we think we're individuals, but we love following orders. Humans love following orders. That's just the way it is. And then in '94, when Nelson Mandela became, I mean, Saint Nelson, because that's now a human that we need in the world right now. And we just realized the government lied. And I mean, the culture shock, the future shock that you had, not just for the black people becoming free, but for the white people that said that everything that you've been told is a lie. I mean, it messed up millions of people. So I would say there's a culture shock that happened. And that's why I also believe that's why South Africans are such adventurers, because we realize that there is no big authority that's speaking the truth. You know, that we have to make our own truth. Government and politicians lie, you know, and the more I see it happening in Sweden right now. 2 weeks ago on television, there was a Swedish politician that basically a woman that sat there and said to the reporter interviewing her, the Moderaterna party wasn't going to nominate me for going to the European Union Council as a party member, so I went to the Social Democrats. No, not the Social Democrats, the Swedish Democrats, and I told them that I'll switch parties just if they nominate me. And that type of, I mean, for a civil servant to do that is to be shocking. That was South Africa in the 80s. I was like, how can you even live with yourself doing that? And it's because we live in a self-promotion society, you know, and so.
But there are other conversations around this, like I listened to some podcast and very interesting, I can't remember his name, but if you study evolution, the human brain is not seeking truth, or we are not seeking truth. We are seeking community. We are seeking to be part of a group, and we are seeking status within that group. And that is, if that happens, that's how you can get to cults. That's how you can get to all these lies.
Of course, but that's why I cannot wait for AI to start managing our politics, because humans have got one key weakness that I've recognized: we cannot be fair and empathetic at the same time. If we're fair, we're not empathetic. If we're empathetic, we're not fair. And humans, we're organic machines, we're organic intelligence, and we've been billions of years of development has gone into that. How are we going to solve that? The only way to solve it is to basically abscond ruling ourselves. An AI that everybody can buy into ruling our society is the future that I hope for.
Yeah, but if the way I summarize, I think there's a couple of things that shaped you, and let me test you. I think the way I have got to know you, you are one of the strongest proponents I've ever met in different ways that always comes back to a couple of things like free speech, open source, transparency. So there are some core values that sort of that culture, future shock, that kind of when you are now calibrating and you're finding your own identity at the age of 21, it sets up an Erich with a quite strong compass in relation to those topics.
I think what it led me is not to trust older people.
Not trust older people.
I did not trust older people. And people in power, I've got a serious problem with people in power. I remember when I got my Swedish citizenship, I was invited to come and meet the king was going to give me more. And I was like, remember, you can invite me, but I'm not going to call him Ers Majestät. And because his shit's the same color as mine, so.
What would happen if you became in power then? Would you trust yourself?
I would like to say yes, but probably no. But I mean, I've got such a warped sense of righteousness, that I feel that I'm too empathetic.
Would you agree with the statement that Lex Friedman says often, that is power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely?
Yeah, that's why I want AI to come in, because if you look at all the good things that happen, it usually lasts about 2 generations before the corruption sets in. That's why I'm wearing this.
Yeah.
And I mean, this is basically all that we're seeing in the world now that we think is new about the corruption that's happening. It happened here. And this is the emblem of the Roman Republic that fell to Julius Caesar. And everybody thinks, Julius Caesar took power. He didn't take power. It was corruption. It was the control of information. Do you know the game Werewolves? It was invented by a Russian guy, a sociologist in the 80s, and it's basically based on if 6 people in a room, 2 of them are werewolves, and 4 of they're werewolves game. I would say, I think you're misspelling werewolf, and basically 2 people are werewolves and the rest are villagers, and it's everybody's guess who is the werewolf. That's the aim of the game. But the reason why the sociologist actually created this game, was that he needed to prove that the informed few will always win over the uninformed many. Okay, so that's the hypothesis of the game. And in the Roman Republic, the informed few basically managed the Roman Empire, or not that stage empire, managed the Roman Republic and actually just took on so many more benefits for themselves and so forth until the population was just so pissed off and fed up, they let a fascist take over, Julius Caesar. Okay, and this is happening right now in our faces again. I mean, all of a sudden you've got this group of people, and it's really concentrating information in AI right now. It's really concentrating information. And not only is it concentrating information, it's concentrating information to I'm not going to say the scariest group of people, shareholders and investors. They determine the future of companies. They determine the future of companies. So we had a bit of a discussion about OpenAI and the kalabalik that happened when Sam Altman was fired. I've got a theory. Everybody's got a theory, but there were groups that disagreed in the board.
Should we go there? Perhaps I have a topic about that.
Yeah.
If you were to, give a backdrop to what happened there, I can do it unless you want to.
You go for it,
and then you can give your view on
my popcorn opinion.
No, but that's what that was in the 17th of October, I think, in last year, and then on that Friday, Sam Altman got fired from OpenAI. He was in the board and the CEO of the company. It was a shock to him and to a lot of other people, or to most people except the board. And then the next day, they appointed another person called Mira Murati, and she was basically the CTO before, but she actually said, I don't want Sam to be gone. I want him back. And then the board, was upset with her and said, okay, let's appoint another CEO. And they appointed Emmett Shear, I believe his name was.
But why did this happen?
Yeah, let's wait for a second then. And then he was appointed, and he said as well, I want Sam back. This is not good. And then on Monday, basically, they sent a letter, and Satya Nadella had this awesome move in saying, why don't you come to Microsoft then? Sam, you can start your own department and bring whoever you want. And then a board or a letter was circulated around OpenAI, and basically 95+% of the employees said, we are going to follow Sam. Now the board is left with a company without any employees. Everyone is going with Sam, and it's like horrific. And basically they had to be forced to let Sam back, and the board was fired, except one person. And now they're back, and he's not in the board anymore, but he's the CEO and running the show again. And now the big question is really why this happened. And perhaps you have some ideas.
I mean, one thing that I'm borderline conspiracy theorist here now, but I actually read some articles that came out directly after it on major news websites. And when I went to check those articles again, they're not there. I mean, they're gone. So I'm just speculating. But obviously, let's pack it down. Something happened in the board, and some people say it was Sam Altman wasn't truthful to the board. I mean, that might be true, which is probably true because maybe OpenAI was going into a specific direction that the board thought was a bit risky. But remember, the board is full of strong. You pick a board to support your vision and to have valid opinions. You know, they're not. I mean, the boards that I've had in my companies have always been people that I can guide me. You know,
the tricky point here is that the board is set up for sort of a open AI research thingy or sort of objective, and now it becomes more and more commercial. So
exactly.
There's a tricky point here. What is
It's an inflection point.
I mean, it's an inflection point. I mean, like, why didn't Elon Musk leave it? I mean, like, they were going to go in this direction, and now it's going.
Because Elon Musk's version of freedom of expression and open source is different from the American version.
Yeah.
You have to remember that there's different versions of that. But coming back to OpenAI, I believe it was an ethical decision. I think that some people who were probably academics in the board felt that, whoa, should we do that? Or does this go against what we as OpenAI set out to do? And that led to a question that the board had the power to let Sam go. But then some shareholders played their card. And they said, basically, we've got the money, we've got the wallets. If you do that, then the company. So all of a sudden,
you say shareholders, but you mean investors?
Investors. So all of a sudden, we who are users of ChatGPT have become beholden to a very small group of investors and what they want to happen with OpenAI.
We should say that Microsoft owned 49% of OpenAI, so they made $19 billion investment in OpenAI.
So we are all living in a Microsoft world, and Microsoft now with ChatGPT, I can say I've got and that leads to what is it that we want AI to be? I mean, you're talking, when you talk to ChatGPT, you're talking to a Californian surfer dude. Very intelligent Californian surfer dude, but all those cultural frame switching that happens between humans when they move, it happens with AI as well. A programmer determines the result of what they're programming. So,
you mean a human programmer determines what the chatbot will say?
Of course.
I don't actually completely
in
agree.
An indirect way.
I mean,
in a deeper way.
Embedded racism. I mean, it's there. It's there.
But it's from the data. It's not manually coded.
It's from the data, but the data is corrupt. I mean, the UK Navy the other day would the UK Air Force had a massive court case against them because they've decided to actually, in their AI recruiting tool, they were recruiting pilots, but they actually put in a thing to lift the CVs of non-white people into these positions to bring them up, because the data just drowned those away. And then
but it's not really a conscious choice. Perhaps it's basically the way the data looks like in our world today.
Yeah,
right?
But it's not just that. It's the way the culture looks like. It's not the data. I mean, culture is data. Yes. And our culture is like, for me, my wife is Swedish and my children is half Swedish. Well, they're more Swedish than Afrikaans, but they look at the world with Swedish eyes, and they pass the data, the same data that I get. They pass it that way, and then when they tell me about My kids can understand apartheid out of an economic and a social point of view. They cannot understand it out of a cultural view. They cannot. They can't compute that, but they can compute the Swedish way of looking at it, economical oppression and stuff like that. But if you take those glasses away, then it's about 2 million white people or 4 million white people in darkest Africa making the wrong choices, which was a cultural decision, not a data decision. Or it was a data decision. But it's the same information. It's the same information. And a Californian guy programming OpenAI, I've seen it in action.
I mean, they have the power to at least filter the data in different ways and select what data to be used to train the model.
But then they do it in English, and that also because English is a language of rules. I mean, this is what made Noam Chomsky so successful in the 80s and the 90s. Now he's trying to take his semiotic way of looking at things into the AI world, and it's not working. And it's not working for him because he doesn't understand this technology. He doesn't. But his rule bases are the same. I mean, language determines people. Language determines people. People forget that.
That's a very philosophical question. Does the language influence the way we think? Does it influence our personality in some way?
Of course. Yeah. Of course. I'm a product of it. If I think in Afrikaans, my mother tongue, I'm naturally more aggressive.
I'm thinking even like the dialect of such a language. When I speak in Kalmaritiska, the southern eastern part of Sweden, I do think I act a bit differently actually than I do when I speak Stockholm-ish kind of Swedish. So
no, but so this is a very deep question. But let's go here because we are all of a sudden.
But should we just close the topic about the OpenAI? Oh, yeah. So if we try to understand a bit what happened there, and there was some kind of potentially ethical discussion. What do you mean with that? Do you think it's more about if going AGI or not, or what's the ethical dilemma?
The articles that I read, and I mean, it was basically about weapon development. There was questions about weapon development, using AI for that, and so on and so on.
Did you see some documents around that?
I just read the highlights and stuff like that. So, but there was an ethical debate, of which Sam at one stage he obviously wasn't open about the direction the company was going and telling the board that they were doing things out of the normal. And but that's not my beef with it. My beef was more that the decision of our technological future, which is AI, I believe that, was made by a few shareholders and investors. They decided how the world will interact with AI, not we the people, but we the investors. And I'm like,
and so what you're saying is like how the thing then unfolded is ultimately steered by the shareholders or the investors.
Exactly, and our lives are steered by shareholders.
So in a sense, the board was going in one direction, and then in the end, they couldn't sustain that direction because their core investors helped them sort of get back on track,
exactly,
get back on the program.
Well, get where we can have shareholder value. What is going to make shareholder value for
they were cut? They were, in a position where they couldn't move anywhere. I mean, all the employees were going to leave. So I mean,
But that's why the fabric of our society, we cannot get out of the capitalistic spinning wheel at the moment. We can't.
I'm not sure the investors. I mean, of course, the investors, if we speak Microsoft, that put $19 billion in it, don't want to lose it. But I think the board, had really no choice because all of the employees would have left, and the company would be dead in weeks.
No, but that's basically capitalism. That's that's the invisible hand. What's his name? Adam Smith wrote about in Wealth of Nations. The invisible hand determines the outcome of economic decisions. So the invisible hand, things happen.
But even if the investor, let's say that Microsoft potentially were putting the squeeze on, so to speak, on the board saying, you have to, let Sam come back. Even if they didn't, even if the investor and Microsoft didn't push the board to quit, I mean, they would have no choice to do so anyway, because the company would be dead. So I think in this case, it was really
it was the shareholders, investors.
I think if they would have been forced to do so anyway,
No, but I think we are talking about the same thing on different abstraction levels, because I remember when we had this, we talked about this on the podcast, and my comment was, this was messed up. But then I said there was one guy who played all his cards brilliantly, so regardless where they were going, he would win, and that was Satya.
Yeah.
So basically, the way he played it, like the invisible hand.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm happy for you, but if you don't work it over there, you're welcome to me. That's the invisible hand card.
But I mean,
so he basically so in a way there was no other. I mean, like, so the way the whole game was played, there was no other choice for the board and to do what they're doing. Otherwise, that company would have been gone. The whole idea would not have been gone. It would have been Microsoft 100% in another structure, as you said.
It's the fallacy of sunk costs. I mean, the sunk cost, you know the fallacy of sunk costs.
No, please.
So the fallacy of sunk costs postulates that sometimes you just go on with the idea because you've invested so much money into it. And you try and save it at all costs because you've got a responsibility to your shareholders. So you just keep on going.
Pot committed. So
exactly. So you've spent 19 billion into OpenAI. You need to save it because you've spent so much on it. But that basically, I wrote a blog post on it on LinkedIn about within the next 2 years, we need to have our first chief philosophical officers on companies, because we need to ask America, which is like the beacon of, I won't say it's the perfect capitalist country. I mean, these days, anybody that thinks that China is a communist country is just stupid. That's the perfect capitalist country. But America has got one product. They only have one product. They don't make computers. They don't make airplanes. They don't make tanks. They don't make whatever they make. They make dollars. That is the only product. Apple makes computers and mobile phones to make money, to basically create shareholder value. Microsoft makes operating systems to create shareholder value, actual revenue in a company. So
who makes the products? Who makes the tanks? Who makes the operating system? Who makes the iPhone?
It's people, but the end goal is to basically make the Benjamins. That's it, you know. And if a product like I don't think that the Apple Vision Pro is going to go that far. I mean, that's just my personal opinion.
No.
It's like, I don't know if you guys remember the Apple Newton in the 90s. You know, you remember the Apple Newton?
I remember the Newton.
Yeah, and they pulled that product quite fast. Why? Not because the Apple Vision Pro is a great product. It is a good product.
But it costs like $35,000.
Because it's not making money. So the product of Apple is dollars, and which translates to shareholder value.
Do you think it's wrong to have companies being driven by profit?
Well, we're seeing the state of the world right now. We're seeing this. I believe that if you become
what should the alternative be?
Yeah, that was my question.
Well, a chief philosophy officer that asks, what is it that we want to do? I mean, my little sister told me the other day, is like, how many times must we look at a turtle with plastic stuck around its throat and coral reefs dying for people to realize that our way of working is not working? We have to try something else. I don't know what the alternative is. I think
because I don't think you believe it's like communism.
No, I don't. I believe in social capitalism. I believe in responsible capitalism. I think that there is. I think I'm a responsible capitalist because I make Mick and I have our friend that I make a point of trying to select the electronics that I buy. I mean, I research where the products get made and which companies I support, who makes the operating system. You know. When there's a one company here in Stockholm, and this is a shout out to them. And if they want to take the shout out, I'm going to mention the name. But you know the company Hemfrid that does house cleaning services. Hemfrid, they do house cleaning services. So when we decided to get house cleaning services here in Stockholm, which is expensive. I mean, I grew up with it in apartheid South Africa. It was cheap, but here it's expensive. We actually made a point of looking for a company that's got collective aftal. You know, because that makes a difference. That makes a difference. That makes sure that we can actually feel. We made a point of looking for a company where the CEO and founder of the company actually said, listen, we're gonna make money in this company, but our wish is not to be like Bezos and be trillionaires. You know, we want to have a comfortable life, but our workers need to have a great future as well. So they basically have a collective after all, and that made our choice. It takes you 5 minutes to research online which company makes good products and that you can buy it. But people don't want to do it.
Because the bottom line, of course, is like
shiny things.
But it needs to be a point where, okay, capitalism, in one way, whatever product you sell or service you provide has a value, and you need to have a payment for that, and it needs to be value worthwhile to do it, so to speak. So to some degree, in the end, everybody needs to have the dollar, but is to what cost?
Exactly.
Is to what cost in the societal cost that is the interest.
I believe that. I mean, I remember growing up in South Africa, and we were all ABBA fans. And then when we found out that ABBA actually was giving all the money that they were generating in South Africa from record sales to the freedom fighters, the struggle against us white people, we were shocked. And a lot of people stopped buying ABBA products, right? So they'd stopped listening to ABBA. I didn't. I wanted to find out, why did ABBA give their money to the ANC, to the PAC and stuff like that? And that opened up my eyes that like the ANC's manifesto wasn't as scary as my political beliefs. And that's the same when people want to buy an iPhone. Ask yourself a couple of questions. Do you want to be in a closed ecosystem where your data basically doesn't belong to you? If you really go and read the ULA, if it's not important to you, fine, buy an Apple iPhone. For me, it's important. You know, that's how I feel. And what is the other thing that I wanted to say about that? I can't remember.
But let's stop here. I want to go to the next section. And it's a little bit like also getting into your, in a way, summarizing. You've been in the startup world, and then you run an innovation consultancy in Sweden for many years. And I want to summarize it with your own words that I picked up sometime, that you call yourself a bodger.
Yeah.
So we leave the open AI conversation, we leave the introduction, and then now it's a little bit like, what does it mean to be a bodger?
Can you put a video on of a chap called Tom Scott and bodger? It's on YouTube. We don't have to watch the video, but let people know. This guy is the ultimate bodger, and he is one of my... He explains bodging much better than... There he is, that first video. So... Bodging basically means, it comes from a French word of tinkering. Tinkering. And some people tinker with physical things and some people tinker with ideas. I think Mika Klingvall is a tinkerer of ideas. Yeah. He's a mental bodger. You know, this guy on this video, he's a physical bodger. So what he's done there is he just explains why he makes an emoji keyboard. He made a keyboard out of emojis, not out of Latin alphabet characters, but out of emojis. Mm-hmm. And then you'll keep on tinkering it. And he tells a beautiful story in this. And when Apollo 13, remember Tom Hanks' movie? Yeah. That actually happened, really. It's not just a movie. Oh, do you guys remember the movie Airheads from the 90s? It's Brendan Fraser when he's younger, and he walks into it, and he sees a book called Moby Dick, and he goes, wow, they made a book out of that, you know. But so Apollo 13, those guys, the oxygen was running around. There was an explosion in the spaceship, and all the oxygen was basically turning into carbon monoxide because they were breathing in and out. So these guys had to sit there and figure out, okay, how are we going to save ourselves? I mean, we're going to have to go around the moon. We can do that, but there's not enough air to keep us alive. So we need to figure out a way and these guys are engineers and pilots and stuff like that, but purely because of their inquisitive nature, they came to the conclusion that we can build our own carbon scrubbers in the Apollo 13 module, and that saved them more than the trip around the moon saved them and the engines. So they bodged forward an idea to basically save themselves. And bodging then basically means if you take an idea that you have here and you apply that in a completely different spectrum. And I told you, Henrik, about, it's also called bilateral thinking. Yeah. You know, this
is what we're getting to in the end, to be more formal.
So, and I think that's one of my strengths. I don't want to blow my own horn a bit, but because I'm a multicultural person, I can take ideas from one culture that isn't visible in another culture, and I go, wait a minute, we can do it like that. a great bodging idea, which now Swedes love, is mobile money. I mean, and Swish and all that stuff. Where was that born? Do you guys know where the first mobile money comes from? Okay, mobile money was born on the coast of East Africa when and this is during Nokia's days. The boat fishermen would go out of Zanzibar, and then they would catch fish and then come back. This is in the early 2000s. And they would catch fish and then they would know that there's the market, there's the market, there's a market, and there's a market. Where should we go and sell our fish? And then they would get SMSs saying, okay, they're offering 10 euros for 5 kilograms of this fish. And they go, okay, that's a good price. How will you pay me if I now start going that way? And they said, well, we'll pay you with airtime. Okay. So you would sign over airtime on your SIM card to the fisherman that's 2 kilometers off the coast. And that was mobile money. That was the birth of that, let's say, mobile economics. And that was an African idea that took the world by storm.
You know? But so in a nutshell, what you've been doing quite a bit has been to sort of down another way we talk about lateral thinking. There's another word for this, intersectional innovation.
Yeah.
That you are combining ideas from different things, and then you can that has led to a sort of a startup idea or something like that.
I would say I've been stealing other people's ideas. I give them part because there's some really intelligent people out there and creative people that I've been working with.
Yeah.
And this is
perhaps that's also one of the core strengths of creative people, to find patterns from one innovation and being able to apply it to another.
Yeah, I think it's also a personality thing, because some of those people take those ideas as their own and they don't give credit to other people. There's quite a few of them, and they basically say, I mean, what I found out, do you know a Swedish company called Neonode?
Neonode?
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard about it.
You know that they basically owned the patent of slide to unlock that iPhone just copied. And so the whole world is programmed to believe that Apple came up with the idea of slide to unlock. But it's a small Swedish company here that came up with the idea 5 years ahead.
And there are a court case around this, right?
Well, I suppose I know some of the guys at Neonode very well. I mean, they're so small; they don't have that much money to take all. And Apple,
but if they are, proven right, they will gain like $1 per phone or something. It's like an absurd amount of money.
But I mean, Apple is the ultimate bodgers. The ultimate bodgers. But the callousness of Apple of stealing ideas is just something that I'm shocked, because I've got a bit of morality. Not much, but I do have some. It's like, give credit where credit is due. I mean, really, some people, Konrad Bergström, he had some great bloody ideas, and let the world know.
But let's talk about a couple of cool ideas. I mean, I think there's a cool understanding of bodging used by looking at what you did with the Marshall, the whole idea with when you.
Well, I'm going to tell you the story secondhand,
okay?
Because it's Konrad's story there.
Yeah.
But basically, when he launched this company, Zound Industries, with 3 home, let's call it, of their own brands. Okay, so it was Molami, Urban Ears, and
so this is Urban Ears in Stockholm. We all know what Urban Ears is.
That's Zound Industry brand. But then they needed Zound Industries needed a bigger brand, and they started looking. And at that stage, there was Beats, which was basically just owned the hip hop market, so you couldn't really start anything. So Konrad, I don't know who in Konrad's network actually thought of it. And he had contacts because he's been in the event industry. So he knew these people from Marshall, and he said, well, listen, these guys have got an iconic brand and speakers. Why don't we take that brand and put it on headsets and start making a company like that? And voila, so all of a sudden, nobody was talking to the rock market of people that want to have headphones and stuff like that. So that's what they did, and it was a great idea. Then the second bodge is, for instance, or big bodge that happened is mobile and sensory technology. My little brother is an exporter of oranges was an exporter of oranges out of South Africa, and we were sitting on his at his house, and he got a phone call from St. Petersburg that said to him that they're not accepting this container. Now you have to think, a container of oranges at mid-season is about $50,000, right? Each orange takes 70 liters of water to produce. Okay, that's how much water. So when a Swede takes an orange here, or a Finn or a person in Europe, and say, no, I don't want it, and they just throw it away, they're not just throwing away an orange, they're throwing away an ecosystem of environmental controls and of labor, of everything. And here's a person in Europe saying to the guy in South Africa, we're not going to take the container, and we're talking millions of oranges in one container. So like you said earlier, 30 to 40% of all food gets thrown away. People don't realize it. It's insane. And and Francois, my little brother, said, what about if we take a Nokia 3310 and we put some sensors on it so that I can know what happens inside what happens inside the container? And I went, we can do that. That's so basically. I went to the guys, company. Shout out to them, Krior, and they are the department inside Nokia that made all the Linux terminals for Nokia, like the N9 and stuff like that. They spun out and started making their own company. Right now, they're world leading when it comes to voice AI. And I said, hey, I want you to take a Nokia phone, give it a powerful antenna to punch through steel, and put some sensors on it so that we could see what's happening inside a container. And then the first product was released in 2014. And that's basically a mobile phone with sensors on to let us know what's happening inside a container. The industry itself is, the logistics industry is 1/3 of the world's GDP. I mean, that's how big it is. So it's just a great thing.
And the interesting thing here is we're in 2014 and still now we're starting to talk about the cold chain.
24. Is it 14?
So 2012.
24.
No, 2012.
Okay.
Yeah.
12, 14, right?
Yeah. Well, we started development and the first product went on sale in 2014.
14, yeah. Okay. So it's not like in the dark ages, really. It's like it's 10 years ago. But still, if you look at how shipment and containers and to keep track of fresh produce was done then, and it's still a problem, right? And
it's a major problem.
And then it's quite interesting. Like, okay, so I have background stories on how Maersk and Ericsson was trying to solve some of this stuff with very, very expensive approaches. And your idea with Most, I want something that looks like an ice hockey puck that someone who has no experience
one button can
throw into the container, on the docks, and that should work.
Yes.
And that's the bodging then. That it's like, when you look under the hood, this is nothing new.
No.
It's like, okay, I need this piece of an old mobile Nokia phone. Yeah. I need some sensors. I need an antenna.
I need a cloud environment to collect data.
Environment to collect data, and I need some analytics on it.
Yeah. Well, not analytics yet. At that stage, analytics was...
But descriptive visualizations.
Let's say alarms.
Alarms and visualizations.
Yeah. And so we built the interface in 2012. I mean, and there, you outsource tasks to great people. So there in the Most team, there were some really great people, and they built this cloud solution. And then all of a sudden, we realized that we've got so much data. It's like, whoa. And I actually got a phone call from a customer that said to me, your device is not working. And I said, why? And they said, well, the shipping company is reporting that the ship's on its route to Rotterdam, but your device is telling me that it's still on the Panama Channel. And I said, well, data doesn't generally lie, so let's just read the data. And we read it, and we actually found out.
I think data can lie, by the way. But
it can lie. I mean, but when it's so specifically niched, and we actually went and realized that because of the drought, the Panama Channel was too shallow for heavy ships. So what the ships do is they lift containers off and just put them on, and the ship goes on, but the container stays behind. And all of a sudden, we found out that but the shipping company just said, the ship's on its way, but the container wasn't on the ship anymore. That type of information. And if you think, what is the most expensive perishable that gets shipped? That's blueberries, I guess, but blueberries mostly get shipped via airplanes. But then there's avocados. One container of avocado, I mean, it's a lot of money. It is a bucket load of money. And if that container gets stuck somewhere, somebody starts losing money big time, And so that's the problem that we solved. But I did it because I felt that we are, as Westerners, we are fed by the third world and the developing world. I mean, we sit here and our people, we want to have luxury foods in ICA and stuff like that, and we go and fetch it and stuff like that, but we never ask ourselves the question of where does this food come from really, okay? And who gets exploited at the end of the day? who gets exploited? It's the producers. ICA is not going to go bankrupt, but how many farmers go bankrupt because they can't deliver on time, or ICA says we don't want this product anymore? And then it's not a big farm. Then it's a local mom and pop farm that has invested to have a harvest of oranges ready because ICA ordered it, but they're only going to pay when they approve the product. So I wanted to give these guys some data to protect themselves. That's one of the reasons why I got involved in most. It's like, do you remember 2 years ago the Evergreen got stuck in the Suez Channel?
Yeah, when they had the big problem in Suez.
Exactly. And who suffered the most? No,
the farmers.
Farmers in India. The farmers in India whose stock just suddenly just spoiled. And I mean, if you can actually go and read the amount of suicides by Indian farmers in the world in India is horrendous. It is. I can't believe that there are people. But we want our latest grapes from India, and stuff like that. But the people paying the price for it are the poorest of the poor.
But so basically so this is the topic now. So bodging is leading us into sort of, we can innovate and we can do fantastic things by basically rethinking stuff and connecting things bilaterally. If I do this and with this and this, then all of a sudden I can track something that we never done in a proper way,
exactly.
Which is not really hard.
It's not really hard. And I mean, there's a democratization of technology happening right now. For us to build that first unit, I think it was a total investment of 7 million crowns in 2013. And we got our investors. And that same project now will cost us less than 2 million. Less than 2 million. Yeah. Because there's the cost of coming up with those ideas is really cheap, is really going down, and thanks to things like AI, thanks to things like the multiple availability of technologies and so on. I mean, it's great. I mean, I'm waiting. There's a group on the Pirate Bay that basically makes all the IKEA designs available so that you can 3D print IKEA things at home if you are so inclined. But
you think that's a good or bad thing?
I think, will I go to jail if I say it's a good thing?
I don't think so. But
I think it's a good thing. I think that copyright and patents has served its purpose. Really. I think that, I'm not saying that it should go away, but I think that the system that is developed in protecting ideas right now maybe worked in the 1920s when it came into power, but it's not fit for purpose.
Let's go there, because this is a good segue, because now we're going from a little the bodger, the background of we are innovating, we're creating new stuff.
I want to tell you guys about the new company, but we don't have an NDA, but I'll share it with you guys after.
Share later, but let's go from here to patents.
Yeah, I mean, there are obviously pros and cons with patents and copyright.
But before we do that,
okay.
Now comes I forgot to tell you about this, Eric.
Yeah.
It's time for AI News.
I completely forgot, but I'm sure you can manage.
Podcast.
We introduced what we called AI News.
Yeah.
Last season everything was spinning. A new announcement, a new large language model every week. So we said, okay, let's see what is the gossip or the latest news for this week.
Excellent.
And so we all have like one or two picks each, and then we try to do it like speed date, speed like the news, right? So do you want to start, Anders?
Well, on the same day as we had the last podcast, last Thursday, a number of
major things happened.
Stories happened, and I guess it feels like so old news now, so it's almost embarrassing.
Are you talking about Sora?
Sora is one, Gemini 1.5 is another, VJEPA is a third, all of them on
I think they're all worthy of a couple of minute snips from you, Anders. Do you want to take one of them?
I want to add one.
Yeah, which one?
Oh. That company in Gothenburg that has just let all their creatives go and going over to AI. So a web design company, video game company in Gothenburg last week let everybody go, or not most of their creatives, and said, we're going to do this with AI because it's better for shareholder value. So that's
local news.
It's gonna have global impact.
Yeah.
I mean, so
that's a good one.
But that could be a follow-up, perhaps,
Yeah.
to the impact of having this kind of development happening in the world.
it's really happening right now. I mean,
But so let's park that back to a deeper topic.
Yeah,
But one of Erich's news was, did you hear about the?
well, for me, it's basically I got involved more in the new Minstrel release.
Yeah.
And I was very impressed with it, and I'm so frustrated with them because they cannot. I mean, Europeans suck at making consumer products, you know. And if you think about how Windows 95 conquered Africa, they didn't go after. They went after making consumers use them. If you want your AI to succeed, get consumers to use it. They will take it into the businesses for you.
Yeah.
You know, and I wish that Minstrel or some European AI company will bloody make a consumer product that people will be so excited about as open.
So the core topic here is like it's not as easy as ChatGPT to use as a newbie.
It's not at all, not at all. You know, and it's not as fun.
Yeah, but back to your stories then, Anders.
Which do you prefer?
I think you need to make a snippet on all of them, and then you can just choose one a bit more. But I think they're all worthy of snippets, actually.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Even though speaking about the week-old news is feeling really bad. Okay, but let's do Sora then.
Let's talk. We cannot not talk about Sora.
Have you seen it?
We've played around with it. It's
it's not available yet.
No. But the guy sent me videos from it and stuff like that. It was just amazing.
Yes. So in short, it's a new text-to-video model that was released by OpenAI. And on the same day as Google made their big release, but it seems like they are competing here, trying to make a news story happening on the same day just to outcompete the other. Anyway, it's amazingly good. It can generate videos up to like minutes with coherence, to the prompt, and the quality of the video is much better than anything else. And it's really hard even to see that it is generated. It really looks like more or less photography or a proper shooting that has occurred.
Yeah, did you hear the gossip that they think it has a lot to do with the Unreal Engine?
They have released a technical paper, and they literally state in it is not using a physical engine, and I do believe them. So I don't believe it, but I do believe they use a physical engine like Unreal to produce training data for it.
It's amazing. Can I just add something there? Do you guys follow the TV program now on SVT called Svensk Historia?
Svensk Historia, yes,
yeah.
yes.
So did you see the last episode?
No, I didn't see the last episode.
So in the last episode, they actually started, because they're telling the history of Sweden, and because there's been such a massive evolution of tools that create moving videos, they actually created AI videos in Svensk Historia telling the story of Sweden. AI videos, and I mean that quality sucked compared to Sora, but do you guys realize the impact this is going to have on the creative industry?
Yeah.
I mean, if they can make an engine right now that does 3 minutes of high quality video, Disney is fucked. I mean, anybody will be able to tell a story. You can take a Robert Heinlein science fiction novel, feed it to an AI, and it'll make you a movie. How epic is that?
It's crazy.
And it's just the start of it.
Yeah, that's
exactly,
Sora, right?
Exactly.
So,
but you can also argue they're way ahead of anyone else. Or?
Yes, but there are competitors like Runway, ML, etc. They are behind. And of course, now OpenAI completely shuts down their whole business model. So they will have a hard time to compete with OpenAI going forward. But just to get a bit technical, perhaps, because Jan LeCun, he was a bit, I think, upset because they released BJEPA and they did it afterwards. And he said the Sora approach was a complete dead end. And I think this is actually a mistake of Jan LeCun. So I disagree with Jan LeCun here, which is not often.
You're a fanboy, I know.
But in this case, he said, they are operating in pixel space. And if you actually read the technical report, they are not. So they do have an encoder that moves from pixel space to an internal latent space. And they do the generation of the video inside that latent space of a space-time frame. So the patches that they take from the images and the video is both on the spatial grid, so to speak, X and Y, but also on the time dimension. And that is the patches they remove and the model has to train to create. And in that way, by moving and doing the inference and prediction and training inside the latent space, they are actually doing exactly what VJEPA is doing. And I think this is really interesting. And I think this is one of the true reasons for them being able to do this at a level that no one else has done before.
And is that the segue to VJEPA?
Yes, if we want to do it quickly, yes. But they can do a lot of stuff. They can't only do text to video. They can also take another video and continue it. They can merge or morph between two videos.
The social implications of this is massive.
I've already seen some people doing proper videos, movies using Sora.
I mean, you're going to have a kid up in North Luleå making his first movie. I mean, it's great. I love it. I think it's.
I also like that they do take it serious from an ethical point of view. So now it's not released to the public. It's released to red teaming people that are looking into the potential ethical impacts.
It's going to be abused. It's going to be abused. That's just the way it is.
But they try to at least minimize it.
Yeah.
And that's at least good. They try to, right?
Until Grok gets a hand on it.
Maybe. Yeah, that would be fun. But anyway, they try to minimize the ethical consequences because I think we all realize the potential abuse that this could have.
Well, we know it because in ChatGPT right now, when you ask it a question, it says, I'm not allowed to, or I'm a language model and I can't answer that question. No, you're an American surfer boy. You don't want to answer that question.
Well, they do try to, the best at their abilities to add guardrails to it. And they are, at least if you believe them, trying to do that as good as they can. They won't, be 100%, of course, but at least they're trying to be ethical here. Let's VJEPA is basically the same story. It's a continuation of the JEPA paper that Jan LeCun put out like a couple of years ago in 2022, I believe. And then they had the iJEPA for images and now a video, VJEPA. And once again, they move from the pixel space into a latent space. They do the inference there, very similar to Sora, and then they can move back.
So what is the VJEPA? Is it an article where they detail quite deeply how to do it, or what is the bottom line here?
Yeah, so this is Meta, this is Jan LeCun, and they put out everything. They have a proper research paper actually explaining how it works. And they even have, I believe, the source code and the models. I think they are released. They will at least. So they are being much more open with the method, the science, open with the model, open with the code.
Brilliant.
Yeah, and that is really good.
Even though I don't like Meta, I love that.
Yeah, and we will come. This is sort of opening up. Yeah.
And they will release it under the Common Creative license, so free to use for whatever. Basically.
Wonderful.
Can I now take the next news as a segue? Because at the same time this week, or even I think it was yesterday, Google released Gemma. Have you heard about Gemma?
No.
So basically, this is Gemma. This is what they then Google called introducing new state-of-the-art open models. And now it gets tricky because then this is sort of Google's play to be more open, right? Mm-hmm. But now we come into the next and we can think about, is this good or how will it work? I mean, like for me, the news is not so much only about what Gemma can do and all that, but it's actually that right now there is there's starting to become a spectrum on what is open source versus what is called open models, which is actually not, and this is not open, it's like open weights.
Marketing.
So basically, in one way, you can fiddle with the weights in the model, but you don't really get to the real code or the real stuff. Mm. So I think the interesting stuff here is
but
actually
at least they're going a bit more open.
They go
compared
more,
to Gemini. This is more open than Gemini.
Yes,
at least it's a good direction.
It's a good direction.
But I appreciate your optimism and your empathy in terms of that. The fact of the matter is that we are at an inflection point now in the next 2 to 3 years. If we don't decide the future of AI if the European Union can stop being so reactive and rather be more proactive, AI is going to go to the power of a few shareholders.
No question. We've been speaking about the AI divide for so long, and I think this acceleration between the divide of the few selected companies, the few superscalers that we have, is just continuing to accelerate. And I'm the first one to say this is not a good direction.
We were the ones. We actually, I don't know But there's been a talk about and discussion about the digital divide, right?
Yeah, but before you go there, I've got one new snippet that I want to add.
Yeah.
Or are we finished with that?
Oh, maybe Goran also.
I think Gamma, or Gemma. When I say Gemma, I think about the Son of Anarchy. They had a mother that called Gemma. So anyway.
Yeah. Okay. I think that my reflection was interesting. They go in this direction. Beware there is a distinction between open source and open models and open weights. So it's interesting. That I didn't want to linger on that more than that.
But if you think about it, if you do a search quickly on, did you guys see what NVIDIA released yesterday? NVIDIA just released a desktop LLM.
Yeah, the desktop LLM, yes.
The RTX thing.
Yeah.
But that was like a week ago as well.
Okay, sorry. It's going so fast. Well, I got up and I thought that this is just epic. This actually really gets so many more people playing with it. Yeah. This is bringing LLMs to the masses. In a way that none of the other programs are doing it.
And still logging it into NVIDIA chips, but still,
Yeah, no, true. But again, now I'm going to use your argument. They're trying,
They're moving in the right direction potentially.
But this is what I don't think that people understand. This is a commercial gamer move. Not gamer as in games, but this is a commercial decision that's going to determine the future of NVIDIA. Because they want people to get into this space in the year, and they want to develop here. They don't want people to go to other things because they've got plans. NVIDIA's got plans. Every company's got plans, and they're fighting for the users now. And
they should, right?
Yeah.
As they are forced to.
So how do you see this game? What are they getting at? They want you to basically build your own LLM PC or use the.
They want people to bodge on their computers at home. Okay, in exactly the way Windows 95 was released in the world in 95. Windows basically made an operating system ubiquitous so that all of a sudden everybody started using that and they started building other things on it. I mean, Windows became available and all of a sudden Excel became the tool of choice for people to actually manage their companies. And still after 40 years, every single CFO in a company uses Excel. This is NVIDIA's play to get people to bodge on their desktop with their tools so that in 40 years people use NVIDIA tools to bodge.
This is at our eyes, right in front of us. We have a Windows 95 move made by NVIDIA in 2024.
Business moves don't change.
But NVIDIA's been doing this for a very long time. The whole CUDA environment that is powering the NVIDIA chip has been always in this way. This is how they lock people into their not only hardware but the software.
Yeah.
This is another software
but
play.
Isn't it the consumer play that is interesting here?
In exactly the same way. I don't think it's changing at all. It's just making sure that NVIDIA can use their hardware in an even broader way.
Do you remember? Okay, when did you get involved in the IT world? When did you start?
For me,
yeah,
a little bit more in around 99.
Okay, so in 1980. Wow, you look so young.
Thank you.
So I remember in the 90s when people asked you, so what do you work with? And you said, I work with computers. And they went, we got you. It was like such an inclusive term of everything. It didn't matter if you were a programmer or if you were techie fixing anything like that. It was the ubiquitous term of saying what you did. I work with computers. And that included the internet, it included mainframe computing, which is now called cloud, and so on and so on. And why was it easy for me? It was easy for me. I mean, sure, I had a bit of, let's say, Windows 3.1 experience before, but Windows 95 just made it so easy. And all of a sudden I could build a website. And I built the e-commerce website in 1995 in a small town in Bloemfontein, because it was easy, because I had this platform to make it happen for me. And this is NVIDIA's play now. It's easy. All of a sudden you can have a budget. And another thing is...
Are you happy for that, or do you think it's a bad move?
No, I want more people to get involved because I believe educating people is the key to saving humanity. Mm-hmm. Educate people as much as you can, and even if you have to use bad tools sometimes, like Windows 95, it got so many people. And then in Sweden, made a great move. When I came to Sweden, they had a tax rebate for people getting a PC at home. I don't know if you guys remember that.
Hemp,
I didn't get
MPS,
one,
yeah. And most companies that deals with Dell. But what they managed to do is that they managed to get a PC into basically every single home in Sweden. The difference that made in Swedish society is cannot be underrated.
I'm still very annoyed when I have to buy a laptop and I pay the Microsoft tax for it. Basically, I'm forced to buy the Windows operating system, though I never use it.
But don't you buy a Linux computer?
I do. This is a Linux computer, but I have to pay Windows license for it anyway. Unless you.
Well, every iPhone that you pay for, you give some money to Nokia and to Ericsson. So yeah. I mean, there's some
patent point.
But let's wrap up the news section. Did we have it? That was the last news. Goran, do you want to add any news?
Yes, just two of them that you missed, actually.
It was a crazy week last week.
It was, but this is super new. I don't get why my tone is like this, but it doesn't matter. So Google had to pause the Gemini AI image generator because basically it refused to make pictures of white people. So all the historical, what is called images of white people were replaced with native Indians and colored ones.
It went woke on them.
Yeah. So now they're pausing this. This is actually very fresh. It's coming out from today, so it's very good. The second thing is that...
but that's what Hollywood does. So what's the big deal? Now AI is doing so. Organic intelligence is allowed to do it, but artificial intelligence is not.
Exactly.
Biases are not allowed.
Right. We should not treat AI the same. No. And then this was very interesting for me. So Reddit actually has come into agreement with Google to sell their data to Google, so Google can train their model on Reddit. This has been going on for some time now.
This is sick.
Yeah,
this is sick.
Let's see how Reddit is going to do after this.
But it's interesting. They're selling their data, which is actually our data.
Of course. And like I say, that they don't care. Let somebody. Sorry, Goran.
This is the most important line for me, right? When people are talking about you cannot put value on data. Well, actually, you have. So in the contract with Alphabet owner Google,
my money
is worth $60 million per year. Okay, according to one of the sources, that is how much the data.
Is it good or bad? I think you can see some positives with this as well.
I am
You're an optimist.
No, but otherwise, Reddit would be dead potentially. I think in this way, it's actually a way
but that's the invisible hand. I mean, then Reddit has to die, and a new service has to come up.
Yeah, but the new service would be Google and one of the tech giants.
But they can still die.
No,
so
Google,
that's why it's kind of dangerous unless you can actually have the kind of old content producers out there to be alive.
Which old content producers?
Reddit, in this case.
Okay, so all these newish content producers.
Yeah. But otherwise, they would be dead. I mean, because otherwise people would just, be asking ChatGPT or Gemini all the questions.
Why can't Reddit just say, okay, guys, we're making money out of you, and here's a credit at Reddit, and here's a store. Because you've surfed.
But Reddit doesn't make money. They're losing money now. They're losing users.
But now they're going to make money out of this.
Sorry? What?
Now they're going to make money out of this.
So that's a good thing, right? That's what I'm saying.
Good. But they're ultimately making money on me.
Of course. But the alternative to just have Googles and the superscalers of the world to make the money would be even worse.
No, but I think that's how the invisible hand has to work. That's why Google reacted so fast when OpenAI launched. Is because all of a sudden here's somebody that's eating their pie. And the nice thing about the world that we live in right now is new companies is not that difficult to start. With a great idea, it's not that difficult to actually start eating somebody else's pie.
I think it is, the divide is actually increasing. I think it will be increasingly hard. So unless we can actually have some value on the data and the superscalers have to pay for it, we will see a very quick death of a lot of companies. And I think this is
the quick birth of companies. I do believe that.
But unless... who can really build a chat model of the future? It's very few companies that can. This is a big problem of the AI divide going forward. So I think that's why we will see an increased concentration of power to the superscalers unless we can find a way to spread it around. I think this is actually a move that at least tries to...
Why is Google doing this? Why are they doing this?
Because they want to have the data. Right?
Why do they want the data?
To train a model.
Why do they want to train the model? No, come on, follow me.
Yeah, of course, to make money from their chatbot.
Exactly, and they have got a corporate mission that says we have to dominate the global scale.
Yeah, but you can't really think that the alternative of not paying Reddit is better.
No, I'm saying that.
So
what about paying Hendrik for being on Reddit?
I mean, good luck doing that. But Reddit would die then even quicker.
Do you remember?
Right?
Do you remember?
I mean, do you see?
Yeah.
Reddit would die even quicker then.
But then that's the invisible hand. I mean, then somebody has to come up with new ideas. Somebody has to budge forth a new idea to make money. Now,
yeah, but unless you have the proper conditions to do so, we will see an increased concentration of power going very quickly.
I think in the Western world, yes, but I think that not in the developing world, not in the global South. I don't think so. I think already there are tools that are, like I told you about the mobile money. A bunch of Zanzibarian fishermen basically were the first users.
A foundational model in the future.
But they didn't care about building a foundational model because they had a function that they wanted. They wanted to basically sell their fish.
But let's step out of this conversation because it's really what we are seeing is then, I mean, in one way, we are seeing a concentration of power, which is dangerous, and maybe we need to fix some of this in the middle, and maybe Reddit surviving a little bit longer is good. But there's also a bigger picture here that we are really seeing two worlds are really.
It's apartheid.
And now we can link back into the core topic of tech apartheid, which was like a.
All right, so let's finish this with the cherry on the top. Erich Hugo leaves OpenAI for the second time. And let's see, he already started actually providing 2-hour courses of how to build infrastructure for LLM full. Just out there so people can listen.
I'd love to hear the backstory on this.
Yeah, but he's preparing for something. It's going to be announced very soon. So
we'll see.
Let's see how it's going to go.
Either that or he has some ethical problems.
But I think
that would be...
That's the end of the news.
Yes. Let's put a wrap there.
Yes.
Yeah, but I think the end of the news is actually the segue into what was like the provocative theme for today.
Yes, please.
I wrote when I was sort of posting on the show today. What are we going to talk about? I sort of posted. Have you heard about the term tech apartheid? Have you heard about it? Apartheid. I can't say it. I'm not even going to try.
You're Germanic like me. You can say it.
Apartheid.
There we go.
Yeah, but so the core topic here is then like moving in from the conversation and this discussion we are having. Is it good or bad? That we are sort of Reddit is making money on this. On this argument, yes, it is good because we are seeing a super concentration. Otherwise, more and more in the Googles, you are a little bit like, well, but it's still not good enough because in the end, Henrik should be paid.
The thing is capitalism at all costs is something that I'm against. I think if you reach your first billion, you get a certificate that says, well done, you won the race. You won the human race. Now go forth and be happy and sit on the beach. Reddit, if the ultimate goal is just to increase that shareholder value, they are going to fail and they're going to have to sell their data, okay? Because their business model, they're basically a discussion forum, okay? Discourse is already stealing their customers away from them at a massive rapid rate. I enjoy Discourse much more than I enjoy Reddit. I'm trying to test Blue Sky right now, but Jack Dorsey has never made anything that makes money, which is a fact. Twitter has never made money. People forget that, but he's a genius. The fact of the matter is that I would have, in 2001, right before I joined Nokia, I joined a company here with a very good friend of mine called Beans, BENZ.com. And these guys had a great idea. Why not pay people for their surfing habits? Because the advertisers on websites right now, they make their money via advertising. So why don't we incentivize people to stay longer on websites and then pay them in a currency? You can do a search on beans.com, BENZ.com. So why don't we incentivize them to stay on the site and really consume the media? And then we pay them in beans, which they then can spend in the store that is also run by us. Okay. So you collected your beans. Not Benz, double E. Yeah. Yep, like that. So beans, and doesn't exist anymore. It doesn't exist anymore. So go digital currency. There. Yes, there we go. And it was way ahead of its time. way ahead of its time, and it basically said, let's incentivize people. Now imagine Reddit says, listen, let's incentivize people to stay on. The longer they spend time on Reddit, they are going to earn some currency, and we make money on our advertising, but we're going to put 20% in a kitty to go give back to the consumers. Because that means that we start getting their loyalty, and they can spend it on our store where we'll make a profit and stuff like that, and upsell other things and stuff like that. I would do that. I mean,
yeah, but so basically, in the discussion or argument here is a little bit like, well, Reddit business model is not strong enough yet, so maybe they, like,
what is their business model?
So instead of talking about, so there are two different problems here that we're trying to balance. Like, one is like we have a superpower over here, very, very concentrated. Anders is objecting or thinking this is scary. I agree with Anders on this. So basically everything else that sort of can sort of dampen that, like let Reddit get paid. And you take it, well, in reality, we need to dampen that, but we need to dampen it with a solid
if you
ideas.
How do we empower Reddit not to put them in a situation where they have to sell their data for $60 million? So obviously their business model, if they're not making money right now, is not working. And they've got a massive server farm that's offering incredible amounts of pages to people to view so that business model is obviously not working.
But I believe their business model is basically ads, and I think they have some kind of premium membership thing that you can pay for.
And Reddit Gold. I mean, what wankish ideas? Who came up with that?
What would be the alternative for them? What would
like
be a better
idea.
Beans
idea?
Beans.
They need to re-innovate and basically figure out another way where basically
who you guys should interview and get on this pod.
Sorry, the beans. I didn't really listen for
if
it.
You
can you just explain
beans?
What was really, if you were to describe it very briefly? What is
so
the
beans? Was basically some investors put a lot of money in a kitty, and they said, listen, so if your website is making money on advertising, right? Mm-hmm. Beans will get people to stay there, and if a person stays there for 5 seconds
how do
longer,
you make people stay there?
Well, great
content,
good content.
So Beans provide content for the websites?
No. You, as let's say Dagens Nyheter or New York Times, you write an article that's a 7-minute to read article, and if you actually finish the article, you get a reward.
Yeah,
and that reward was Beans, and then you can and you've got your account at the Beans, and this was before cryptocurrencies even entered the space, and then you get your reward, and then you could go to the Bean store and buy stuff, that might, whatever, they had hi-fis, they had CDs, they had everything, like as mini Amazon.
So they wanted to reward you for your surfing behavior.
They wanted to
reward you for being able to track your surfing behavior.
Yeah, and this was amazing. I was like, wow, why don't more people get on? Obviously, shareholders didn't like that, so the idea didn't take off. But the actual core idea was brilliant. Let people be part of the solution of solving media websites crisis. Let the readers help them. Otherwise, it's not going to fly. I mean, you can't make enough. Google has ruined the advertising market ad infinitum. It's never going to change back. It's never going to change back to what it was before Google started basically taking microtransactions for advertising. A traditional company like Bonnier or Bertelsmann, they never understood microtransactions. They never understood how to make money on a small thing, because the way that they sold advertising is like big campaigns and big deals and stuff like that. And here comes Google, and they just chop everything into small pieces, and they make their money on the process rather than at the end product. So the whole process is monetized for Google. And here Beans came. The Beans was actually before Google. And they said, well, listen, we know that the media industry is struggling right now. So let's incentivize people to finish articles.
Why didn't it work, you think?
I think it was way too far ahead of the future. I really think so.
Timing-wise, the market...
I mean, Dagens Nyheter, if we take them as an example, they need to make money somehow, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, they would die. Every company basically are forced to make money, right?
Yeah.
And if they can obviously make money on ads, right? Or some kind of subscription.
Yeah.
That's basically the two main thing. Have
you seen?
How can they make money from Beans? I mean, I don't really get
Well,
it.
they can basically then guarantee that a person is interacting with the advertisement for 7 minutes during the article is actually right there.
But then it's back to ads. Then it's an ad format.
But then they create that and they say, okay, here is a bean for you, Mr. Consumer or Mrs. Consumer. Go to the Dagens /marketplace and spend this money. And you'll only get 20% of the beans that you can use to buy this new mobile phone, and the rest you can, and then they make a profit on the mobile phone that they sell. You know, do you guys get Lidl's reclameblad? Have you seen what they sell also in Lidl's reclameblad? They've got partnerships with travel agencies. Do you remember Ellos?
Yes.
The Swedish company?
I'm from Borås.
Yeah, Ellos sell clothes, and all of a sudden you get like in the same package, you get like, and here's an advertisement for a holiday in Greece, and here is hi-fis, and here's this and that, and you go, what? Same people. You have to.
I must say, we can stop this topic, but I think it's basically the same kind of ad broker service that we do have for ads. It's basically a broker in the middle, but still.
But before we stop it, can you just open a website called Bitrefill? Have you guys seen Bitrefill, a Swedish fintech company that is B-I-T, Refill. And this is shout out to Sergej Kotliar, who is a genius. There we go. This guy is cleaning it up, and he's underneath the radar here in the Swedish tech scene. Nobody really knows him. But he started off by actually offering non-connected people the ability to earn Bitcoin via their mobile phones and get paid in Bitcoin. And then he created a marketplace where you could spend your Bitcoins that you earn via his tools. And I don't know, you should check this company out. I mean, they are cleaning up globally. They are, and it says, and he's this unassuming guy that sits here and he got an idea. Wait a minute, why don't we just pay people in Bitcoins or parts of Bitcoins, and then we get them to spend it at our place? Voila. And he's got a global website.
So it's a marketplace.
It's a marketplace, but they also incentivize people to earn Bitcoins, because do you guys realize that these server farms in Bangladesh, or where people just sit and look at ads, you know, stuff like that, those people get paid in Bitcoin. They don't have a place to, and then he sold airtime on mobile phones. So you earn a Bitcoin and then you can top up your mobile phone card. And that's how he started with the idea. And now I think he's one of his website is probably, or his service is one of the global Bitcoin genius services that is really pumping it out. You should see what the valuation is right now.
But
I wouldn't hold my breath for this, but okay.
Yeah.
But could we then sort of segue back into one of the key themes here? It's a little bit like coming into this topic from, I'm trying to set it up again.
Should we do the open source and patent question, or which one are you thinking about?
Yeah. Or maybe we should move there first then.
Yeah. Okay. Should I try to frame it somehow?
Yeah.
Yes, please do.
I'm thinking about how. But okay, we can see pros and cons with patents and open source and proprietary, software, and should we open source Gemini and ChatGPT and not? And I think we can list pros and cons with each approach here. But let me perhaps open a question to you, Erich, in a way like this. And I'm going to take a side here, even though I'm very much pro open source and I'm against patents in general, but I'm still going to take the other side here for a minute.
Yeah.
So let's say that you have to develop a new corona vaccine, and it costs a lot of money, like billions of dollars, and they spend a lot of time developing this, and they got the vaccine out, and suddenly someone else steals that vaccine and sells it for 1/10 of the price. And the whole research you did to actually develop it never gets funded back. What do you think that's a good thing? Or
no, it's not a good thing.
How should we be able to do like serious research and development work and still get recognized for it without having...
Is financial recognition the only thing that is the valid currency of recognition?
Sorry, what?
Financial recognition. Is that the only currency that we have in recognition?
I don't know. You tell me. But how should we be able to develop vaccines and other type of products that requires a lot of research?
I have got no idea. But
yeah.
I think that we're living in a world right now where you know about abundance theory. You know, Elon Musk is...
We know, yeah.
So
I usually speak about that all the time. Please describe it.
So Elon Musk's favorite science fiction writer is a guy called Ian Banks.
Yeah.
who's also my favorite science fiction writer. It's something we have in common. I think Ian Banks was very big in South Africa, maybe not. He created a universe called The Culture, and where everything is available and everything is easy to produce and stuff like that and so on. And therefore, there was no need for copyright because everybody can produce everything, you know. And Interesting Times Gang is actually named after an AI in the Accession, which is a book by Ian Banks. And if you look at the SpaceX Starships, they've all got Ian Banks airships names, you know. So I think that we need to start thinking like an abundance theory civilization.
But before, I mean, abundance in Elon Musk mind, at least the way I think about it is that we have so cheap production, we have so cheap innovation, we have so cheap energy that we will have abundance of whatever needs we have as a human. But we're not there yet, at least.
I think we are there yet. I think what's happening right now is that we're being constrained because we're thinking binary about it. We're thinking in terms of there has to be something, it's either copyrighted or it's not, whereas I don't want to play on that playing field. I don't want to say that those are the alternative for my rules.
How should we develop corona vaccine then if we didn't have patents?
Well, I mean, I think that if there's an existential threat to humanity, then humans need to get their shit together and start working together to solve problems, regardless of the financial reward. I mean, this is an existential threat. Corona was an existential threat. And then...
Let's take a simple, the Tieto Evro ransomware crisis. Let's say a company develops cybersecurity defense system that is awesome to detect the ransomware, but it takes like years and years of work to develop that software. Now, a company then sells that software, but are forced to open source the software so that everyone can have it. How will they ever make their money back for developing this kind of awesome cyber defense software?
Well, I think if you look at when I created Most, and I told you earlier that it took us about 7 million Swedish crowns to develop the company, and now developing the same type of company, less than 3 million. So we need to basically maybe make a rule of saying, okay, after a certain period of time when the technology that was used to create this has matured and the price has dropped by 70%, then the patent should be opened up.
Okay. So, but it's okay to have patents at least during a time.
Well, if you're going to tell me that my option is that I have to have patents, I mean, the fact of the matter is that I don't think we should have patents. But if we live in a world where patents has to be, it's like saying, listen, when you started Most, I mean, we didn't patent anything on Most because what did we have? We had a GSM module, we had a couple of sensors, and we had a web interface. I should have patented because there were quite a few things that were quite unique. But if you, after 10 years, some arbitrary judge, economic judge can say, okay, the market is now matured to a certain extent that the patent value can go down. So maybe the value of the patent can go down incrementally, you know, in terms of that.
You know, Elon Musk and Tesla, for example, they are open sourcing all their patents.
Wonderful.
Right?
I love it.
Why do you think they do that?
Because he's South African. No, but I mean, seriously, I mentioned Mark Shuttleworth earlier. Was it on the pod, before the pod? You know, Mark Shuttleworth with very sign. Yeah. He started Ubuntu. Yeah. He's a South African. And so you've got these two South African billionaires who basically believe in open source. Okay, they go to different paths towards it. Mark Shuttleworth started Ubuntu, and Elon Musk is open sourcing his patents like good Swedes. I mean, Volvo giving away their 3-point patent for.
But do you really think they're doing it for altruistic reasons?
Well, I think Elon Musk is most definitely doing it for altruistic reasons because
I have another theory.
I think that Elon Musk actually does want to save the planet.
Yes, I can agree on that.
Actually think that he does want to get to Mars. And Mark Shuttleworth, growing up in South Africa, created Ubuntu because he said that, and Mark, forgive me if you're listening, I did send him the link. He said that the tool is the operating system. Why should it be so? We don't want the tool to cost money because we want better educated people. So give the tools to the people to become better educated. You know, so I do think that was also I think Elon Musk is.
But the tricky point is, of course, the commercial reality that everybody needs to make a living. And like, I think you said it sometimes that, you know, of the two entrepreneurs coming out of South Africa that really
there's
made
a bit more than them, but those two.
The two biggest ones, you're on the Mark camp.
I understand Mark more. Elon is on the spectrum, and I think that he is so goal orientated that it bloody hurts. He's got nothing that stands between him and his mission.
But the core topic here now, in one way, it seems like also Mark has altruistic motives, but of course also has commercial motives in order to make business.
He's made $1 billion.
But how did he make his $1 billion?
He sold his company to VeriSign.
So the core topic was that they developed Ubuntu on top of Linux. So how was it?
No, so he had a company in the 90s that made security certificates in Cape Town, in his garage. He was making security certificates for websites, and he sold that to VeriSign. I think it was VeriSign, for $1 billion, because everybody wanted secure websites, and he made billions. He's got much less money now because he spent quite a lot of money in getting Ubuntu off the ground. And he's invested, but I can understand.
And now, what is the commercial model now for? Because
he's got an investment company where he invests in. I know that he's got, and this is a shout out to Knife Capital in South Africa, where they invest actually that money that he made in good African companies that are pushing the dial. But one thing that I do want to say, which is a very personal thing for me, is that we as Westerners, we need to make critical choices in our life the whole time. And in order to make a critical choice, we need to be educated. And in order to be educated, we need tools. We can't be educated just by being in the Western world anymore. We need tools to be educated. So if you're going to restrict the tools to educate people, then you're going to have dumb consumers. And do you want to live in a society that has dumb consumers? I want as many people to be computer literate as possible, because that's the first entry point to bettering your life.
But I buy it 100% on an ideology basis. But ultimately, I think it's a dangerous rhetoric here, because I think it's super important to highlight that open source is also a business play. So if you make open source, like we all need to do open source, we need to buy open source, and we need to do all this for the greater good, but everybody is going to be ruined in the process, it's going to be a hard sell. I think it's better to then recognize, how do we make money based on open source, and why is that such a great model?
But that's the layer on top of open source.
Exactly.
So
let's talk about that then. So people see the full picture.
I mean, you've got some great open source companies out there that are really, one of my favorites is Yola in Finland. I don't know if they still exist, but Yola really pushed. So the operating system that we made for the Nokia Media Terminal in 2001 turned into Migo, which was bought by Samsung, which is now powering every single Samsung television. So if you buy a Samsung television, smart TV right now, it's got an operating system which is based on the Nokia Migo system originally. But Yola went and they continued creating mobile phone operating systems, open source mobile phone operating systems. But they're not that successful, because what Anders mentioned earlier about the big player Google is just forcing everybody into their services offering, and Apple. So a clean operating system has got very little value, because you can't have your Google Maps and you can't have your Gmail and stuff like that. Until that problem is solved, then how can we get good local services on a mobile phone? But there's power. The mines in South Africa, they are using open source quite a lot. I can give you a horror story. Did you see what happened in Birmingham with using Oracle, which is not open source? Did you guys see? So Birmingham City Council has gone bankrupt. The second largest city in the UK has gone bankrupt because they decided to have proprietary software running their services. And the people that were consulting for them, implementing Oracle system they just kept on invoicing, and the city just kept on paying. But if they had a good open source solution, which was, so you can, if you do a search on Google News, you'll say it, you'll find it. If you go to news,
up to the left corner.
There. So this is what happens with a social service. A city council is a social service, right? And they've gone bankrupt. And this is taxpayers' money because they've gone into proprietary software. Open source.
Don't you think there is any reason for proprietary software to be out there? Should every piece of product be open source?
Are knives and forks proprietary software or hardware? I mean, we live in a world where software is so ubiquitous now. It's so part of our lives now that
I went to DeepMind once and listened and asked the question. Why do you publish the research? The articles that you have that explains everything, how you do the data, the models, and everything. And they said something interesting and I think very profound, which is basically, when we publish the article, it's gone probably 2 years since we actually started working with this. At the time, someone else reads it and starts to potentially make use of the research article or the open source software. They're probably 4 years behind. And at 4 years ahead, we already have products that we make money from that are so much better than anyone else. We have nothing to lose and everything to gain by open sourcing it because they will help us to improve our own software. And we will still be ahead.
No, but our whole economic system is geared not to let open source survive. I mean, that's it. This is
this is a good thing, I think, right? I mean, I think that's why so many people are open sourcing. I think that's why Elon Musk are doing it. And it's because they know that they can't have BMW just taking their patents and copying it because they are so much further ahead already.
Yeah, but right? I think that's a great reference. I mean, for me, it's a question of if I come from how much open source is actually meant for the continent of Africa in lifting people out of abject poverty, which Windows 95 never could have done. Never could have done. Did Mark Shuttleworth make money out of basically giving all the kids in Kenya an access to a laptop? I don't know. I doubt it. But at least Kenya has got a whole generation of computer literate kids now that can make critical decisions and actually push the economy further. You have to remember that one of the challenges that we have with patents is that we live in 4-month cycles in the Western world. That's shareholder reports the whole time. So if you don't show profit within 4 months with anything,
that's horrible.
Then they shut it down. I mean,
but not every company operates like that. It's actually a
private
few. Not everyone for sure.
No, but private companies I found that are still family owned, they think longer into the future. And there's this company here.
And even Spotify and so I think most tech companies are not operating on a quarterly basis. They are working on like 5+ year basis.
I hope so, because I've seen some horror stories of good projects that get shut down.
No one will survive if you just operate.
But I think this is super important to understand. And now we started from the open source angle. The other way into this was actually starting from the tech apartheid angle and then moving into open source as one of the key solutions. Because, I mean, like, this is a layered discussion because at some point in time, we understand that we need open source as a way to basically not as the only means to sort of keep the world not so divided, or like if you take the other extreme in this argument, say, let's make everything proprietary. Let's ban open source. Open source is dangerous. With AI now, it's super dangerous with open source because then the bad guys can have.
It's
so. But if you take that argument and take that to the extreme, where does that lead us to? Like, if we were sort of arguing for the proprietary world 100%, that would basically mean back to more or less tech and AI apartheid, where you get to a point where a large portion of the world has no means to sort of innovate.
Yeah, and also they've got no doors into that world. They don't. I mean, remember in the beginning of the pod, I mentioned the game Werewolves.
Yeah.
The informed few will always defeat the uninformed many. So the people that, and this is why I'm wearing this, because the informed few in the Republic of Rome, in before Julius Caesar took over, they hoarded all the information. All the tools.
I completely agree. If I just continue that discussion, we had a lot of discussion, I think, Lad's podcast as well about, should we open source AI models or not? Should OpenAI be open, or should Google be completely open with Gemini and so forth? And we came to, or at least one discussion is, I at least believe that absolute openness is very dangerous. Yeah. And if you, and we had...
But who decides?
Okay, but let me give an example. We started speaking about this. If we have a loaded gun and put it in availability to a small child, is that a good openness that we have?
Yeah, that's the argumentation. Guns don't kill people; people kill people. I mean, I that's such a big question that I don't know. But I do know what is more dangerous is withholding information from people.
But there are limits still.
But you withhold information from people, and you make a lower class that are feeling disenfranchised. You have revolutions. That is history. That is so true.
But the question is it's not as easy as everything should be open.
No, it might not be. I mean, what about that Swedish guy that built a nuclear bomb in his kitchen a few years ago? I mean,
you say you can argue, you can follow from that. If you do agree that you shouldn't, give children loaded guns, which I think most people agree with, then the question can be, okay, let's take
Should you give grown-ups loaded guns though?
I don't think so either, but that's another question. I think it's more okay than children at least. Then the question then becomes, if you have a super powerful AI model, let's think in the future 5 years, like more or less AGI, without any restrictions on it. You can ask it anything and it will help you to do so. It will, if you ask it to, how do I break into this bank's encryption system and steal all the money, they will help you to do so.
Yeah.
Is that a good thing?
No, but if you have the laws of the land, there is a criminal penalty for illegal information. Do you guys remember the cookbook?
Is that okay then? So if we just have the law of some things are illegal, should we then give all the people all the guns in the world?
Well, you can't have different laws for online life than you have for offline life.
But that's not my question.
But the fact of the matter is that if you put restrictions on the OpenAI model, not OpenAI, the company, saying, listen, you're not allowed to give information on how to construct guns to rob banks. That is a law of the land. I can if I plan a robbery.
But it should be limited to that then. So if you have a law of the land saying you're not allowed to give information about how to build bombs or guns.
Yeah, I think the law of the land is the baseline.
Then you should have that in the model, right?
That's the baseline.
But if you do open source it, then it would be very easy to remove that.
Well, it's going to happen in any case.
Then it's okay.
It's going to happen in any case. So the people that are, I'm not saying it's okay, but the fact of the matter is that the genie is out of the bottle. And those.
But should it be, even though some people may be able to fix it, shouldn't all companies have the ethical responsibility to at least make it as hard as possible?
Yes, of course. The digital philosophy officers, get them on board, to put that question together. But,
absolute openness is not something that we strive for.
Freedom of speech doesn't mean freedom from responsibility. Yeah. That's something that people don't understand.
But I don't think that's sufficient, right? If a small child or some person with some psychological problem are having access to guns, I think it's the person that makes that gun available's fault, potentially, right?
A person that wants to kill another person is going to kill a person.
I think we have more responsibility than that. I think we should not allow children, for example, to have loaded guns. But you can't simply say it was that child's fault.
You can get that guy that I mentioned, that sociologist in the 50s, people follow orders. They don't think for themselves.
Yeah, but it doesn't relieve the responsibility of the parents or the society to make it hard for person to abuse information, right?
I think people are going to abuse it in any case, but it does not.
We should make it hard.
We should make it hard. Yes. We should make it hard. But the benefits that we are going to get from having an educated population is going to be
absolutely no question
epic. And I think that open sourcing AI to the world so that Senzo Matwetwa in Zululand can actually build a new radiator for his family farm to make sure that his family is fed. And you have billions of those guys doing that and girls doing that. That is 10 times better for me than maybe it's also what's your view on humanity. I believe we're like in True Detective, we're sentient meat sacks.
But I think I want to wrap this topic up and kind of take the last topic into more philosophical topics, because when I sit and listen to your discussion here, it's very soon has very, very little with tech and AI and we coming into fundamentally, philosophical ideologist conundrums.
Yeah.
And we're coming into a topic where basically the only way to sort of get this right is to get the philosophy and the ideology right.
Yes.
I know you posted an article not so long ago. In the future we need chief philosophy officers
and companies.
And literally, I think the segue is just listening to this conversation about open source and how to think about that. And by the way, we are steel manning. We are all thinking for open source,
yes.
but we're wanting a good debate here. It's so
I'm
hard, man.
For it as well, just to make it clear.
Yeah, just to make it super clear. Anders was steel manning you hard right now. It's interesting because I usually hear him steel manning on the other side.
Yeah.
So it was fun. But this becomes very, very philosophical topics, or big questions. So could you elaborate a little bit about both how you've been, how you come up with that sort of, your view on this? It's clear you've taken that into your job.
Well, I mean, it's become more crucial in the last 10 years, okay, because I've been working with agri-tech so much, and I'm involved, and I see how our food is produced, and I see what...
We didn't even talk about Delta Track
No.
yet.
But now we're going to do it because Delta Track has opened not Delta Track, my foray into ag tech. I mean, you have to remember, I'm a web guy originally that went to hardware, that went to the cloud, and now I'm in ag tech because it's fun, But now I've actually got a purpose. A farmer in South Africa. Okay, so let's explain the process of ICA in Westeros decides that this is January now. And in August, the first week, they've got a thing called a commercial calendar where they basically plan the whole year ahead, because I worked in the digital retail as well, where they plan quite a lot far ahead and saying that month, that week, we're going to have a sale of oranges, right? So what happens then? Well, they phone an importer in Helsingborg and say, okay, we need 2 containers of oranges delivered to us in Westeros on the 2nd of August. Okay, this is now in January. And the importer goes, great, I'll source that for you. He goes to an exporter in South Africa or in Argentina or whatever and says, listen, in 6 months' time, we need 2 containers of oranges at ICA. Can you commit to that? And the farmer goes, okay, I'll commit to that. Okay. Oh, no, the exporter says, I'll commit to that. Then the exporter drives to a farm somewhere in India, outside Delhi, and he says, okay, which farmer wants to take this deal? And they all put up their hands. Remember, not 1 cent has changed hands here. Not one person has gotten paid yet. Okay. The farmer then pays for labor. So that's a cost that he has to take. The advantage that the third world has is that labor is cheap. Okay. Then the compost materials to grow these oranges, then the regulations, the EU and American and Chinese regulations, it's very expensive, and everything is carried basically by the farmer. All that is carried by the farmer. Then in June, he harvests and he puts all that stuff in the container, and the exporter picks it up and puts it on a ship. And 6 weeks later, I mean, most of the fruit and veg that we eat here in Sweden is about 6 weeks minimum old. I mean, it's been in controlled environments. And then gets picked up at Helsingborg, driven to Westeros, and they open the container. We don't want this, and that is basically the system of where the whole topic idea comes from, tech apartheid. So all of a sudden, this farmer or producer in the developing world has been placed at risk, okay, completely placed at risk. And that made me think in the last 10 years about the ethics of not logistics, but the systems that we have and the technology systems. How are we going to make this a better system? How are we going to do that? And it made me realize that as long as you have a company where shareholder value is the key component, you're not going to fix it. You're not going to fix it because the shareholder does not care about a farmer in Africa going bankrupt. The shareholders in ICA and Westeros don't care if a farmer in Africa goes bankrupt. They want their oranges. Okay. So how can we actually get ICA to care about farmers in Africa? The guys who's producing, who's taking all this risk the whole time. Right now, all the technology systems is usually managed by a guy called the CTO. What qualifies a CTO to make the decision of a farmer in Africa? I mean, they don't have the tools to do that. They've got a feeling maybe, but philosophy is a science. I mean, it's a real incredible science, and most tech heads that I know laugh at me when I say that. But I've got Mika in my camp. I mean, Mika Klingvall and I totally agree. It's a full-blooded sociology. How do we get our CTOs to care about that, to care about the effect of their IT systems? Because we can give them the Delta Track device to get data about the quality of the product, to make sure that the goods are protected. But at the end of the day, we need somebody that asks the CEO of a company, listen, what is your goal? What is your goal? Is it just basically to have dividend payouts every single year?
Is it capitalism at all costs, or is it capitalist, or is it social capitalism? And then the goal is not so clear anymore. It's more dimensions.
I think the thing is that, like I said, billionaires have a certificate that you've become a billionaire. Congrats. You won humanity. But the fact of the matter is that your company will last longer if your employees and suppliers are happy. Okay, they will last longer. Your staff will be happier. Your supply chains, you're going to have an effect on a person on the other side of the world that you'll never meet, which is just a positive thing. But companies don't care about that, because we want our avocados, we want our oranges, and we want our guavas, and you don't think about it. And this is now an old debate in the tech industry. I mean, the tech industry has been talking about children in China making iPhones and people working 24 hours, but now it's coming to ag tech. The other thing that's shocking to me is that, not shocking to me, but is truly scary. Currently, the agricultural industry is probably the largest employer in the world. I mean, more people in the world work in agriculture than any other industry. I might be wrong, but you can fact check me there. But it is huge. All of a sudden, you've got a robot that can basically do the labor on a farm. And an AI robot that can basically come to a orange and say, okay, this one's not ready to be picked. I'm going to go to the next one. Robots can do that today. And the shareholder-driven companies, let's get those robots in there, because we won't have to pay for people anymore. But can you imagine when farms start becoming robotified, the social impact of having billions of people suddenly lose their jobs? Not suddenly, maybe over 2 to 3 years.
What do you think we should do about it? Because I guess you believe it will happen sooner or later, right?
Educate.
But how will that help the farmers?
We know it's going to happen right now.
Yeah.
This is something that Sweden does very well. I mean, like when I came to Sweden, everybody wanted to study to be an engineer. Why? Why when in the 90s when I came, everybody wanted to study some kind of engineering?
But how does it help the farmers of India or something?
Well, the farmers of India might get their eyes opened if they're educated that there are other career opportunities.
So they will move to
other avenues and have a gentle
AI engineers or something.
Or whatever. I mean, but to have a gentle transition to the industry. I mean, I can tell you the agricultural industry is coming in, and usually it's when the farmers get angry that real revolutions happen.
But because this is a little bit like you're wearing your shirt today. It's like don't expect this to work, because if you don't fix this in a smart and gentle way, that is sort of more long term, fixing down the line. I mean, like, so what you're saying is, it's not like we don't think there's going to be a robotics picking oranges. That's going to happen. We know it's going to happen.
Exactly.
It's how do we get there? In what way did we get there? How many people did we trample on in the process? That's going to either be a quite happy society or there's going to be revolution long before
we even get there. Because
right?
humans revolt.
Yes.
That's something that we know is going to happen. Yeah. We know it's going to happen. Why did 1917...
So if we are blind to what we are doing now as a CTO and putting in robotics, if we are blind to how that will work and what is the knock-on effects, something else is going to bite us in the ass. And just to make clear, it's not about if we should do it, it's about how we should do it.
Yeah, and also then giving people options. I mean, I'm thinking now, coming back to this, we see Julius Caesar. I mean, everybody's got their visions about who Julius Caesar was, but he was a Trump of his day. And he basically managed the discontent of people. There was a mass amount of people in the Republic that were unhappy. There's a massive amount of people in Europe and in America right now that's unhappy. And all we're doing is kind of like ignoring this. We're not asking why are they unhappy. We just get annoyed that they're going to joining right-wing parties and stuff. But there's a specific reason. My theory is that it's education, because if you cut down on education, people become less critical, and they believe society just needs to give to them the whole time. You know, and everything, there has to be bread in the bakery in the morning. You know, that type of thing. But if you educate a person to ask why is there bread in the bakery in the morning, they're going to make more wise decisions. You know,
how do we make people more educated then?
Give them free open source operating systems tomorrow. My older brother, who's really should be the one here because he's one of my biggest inspirations. I mean, he made sure in the school where his children were that there was a data room and installed by Ubuntu, with Ubuntu, to basically make sure that they're in the west side of Johannesburg in South Africa, all those kids got access to computer schooling. I was so surprised.
Do you think the big like chatbot LLM foundational model movement will also help with education?
I hope so. I mean,
I think it could be a really big boost in
I
education.
think it will be so amazing. I mean, my mom is an author. You can check her other books on Amazon, and I mean, she's using AI so much now to write her books. I mean, and she's also teaching things, but she's a linguist, so she's very much into the language of AI. But I think that education is the key thing, and Sweden has been doing it right for so many years, and now it's a bit shaky. There's a bit of shaky. Education should not be restricted. It should not be restricted. You cannot basically have specific schools that have got better results than other schools. You need as many people as educated as possible.
But open sourcing education.
Open sourcing education is the way to go.
Yeah,
I mean,
so open sourcing education, and now it's sort of tying it back down to, let's not steal man now, like the open source conversation here is actually about figuring out business models where we open source so we can be inclusive with the full view of the AI divide, so to speak. Not only we have the divide from us versus the super tech giants, but then we have the divide to the real developing countries. So working with business models that allows us to open source so we can get as inclusive as possible. And then, of course, build business models on top of all that, as we always have done. How Linux worked with Red Hat.
Love it.
And all that.
Love it. I mean, so I think that within the next technology or an AI is becoming it's becoming knives and forks for society. Everybody's got access to knives and forks, you know, and everybody can learn to choose either I'm going to eat with this AI model with the pins from Asia, or I'm going to eat with a knife and fork. But the technology is available to everybody, and then they can make a choice about the technology. And some people will say, well, I want a fancy fork with gold engraving, with that. That's fine.
But we're running out of time. But I can't help myself. I need to
I'm
go.
only starting.
I know. We continue after work. But if we go down this path and we follow you in this argument of open source, open sourcing education, and seeing sort of, if we don't do that, it leads to revolution. How should the regulators, the politicians, the EU, the Swedish government think about investing and supporting AI then?
Well,
giving this
the first thing that the Swedish government can do tomorrow, and the European Union government, whatever it's called, raise the salaries of teachers tomorrow. that has to happen. Make education what it was 100 years ago. Make it like, wow, you know, getting educated is cool, you know. And then you say, okay, here's your tools. You can go the open AI way, or you can use Minstrel, which is an open source alternative, or blah 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 and stuff like that. But these are the tools. But put education And Sweden has been doing this. I don't understand why Sweden is moving away from it, because it's worked for Sweden. It has worked for Sweden. It made this little...
Isn't that interesting? You see, when you come with your eyes from South Africa to Sweden, and you lived here now for how many years?
25 years.
25 years.
Yeah.
So you have seen from another end of the society how Sweden was and what we've been doing great. And right now it's a little bit like,
what the fuck are you doing? What are you doing? Because I mean, when
you have it, you follow the path.
You know, I mean, I was thinking the other day, why in heaven's name? You know why Sweden had so many patents at the end of the 19th century? I mean, like the patents that came out of Sweden was mind blowing. I mean, it was the zip, it was the safety pin, it was matches, it was the pallet. It was just amazing. And there's a beautiful documentary about it on YouTube called Svensk Economic Miracle. And I seriously recommend anybody to go and watch it, because when they made education compulsory in Sweden, one generation later, those people were educated and started making really great inventions. So Albert Nobel's generation and Alem Ericsson's generation was because they invested in education in 1842, I think, when education became compulsory here. Those guys was the product, the result. And that's what Sweden needs to do. And that's what they did in of the Second World War. So the Second World Sweden wasn't.
And then of course, putting the AI spin on this is of course to have an AI literate, AI ready education. We're going to educate on this stuff that we know is the future, of course.
I am amazed that I, as an immigrant to Sweden, had to go to my children's school and start computer education and programming education because the school didn't offer it. I was like, huh? There was no computer education at school. In a Swedish school, there isn't computer education. I mean, maybe now there is.
Some of them have. Some of them have.
For the last 20 years at least.
It is, but you know
my
what?
kids were in the English school and
I think the point is it's different, right? I think different municipalities look at this differently.
Yeah.
You know, and some schools have iPad and some don't. In the 80s, so it's really different.
In the 80s in South African schools, we had a daily 30-minute class in computer management and computer usage. I mean,
I guess I so much agree with what you are saying here as well. And I think Sweden's, secret source to success in the past has been really the awesome education we have been having. And I hope
education and collaboration. Those two,
maybe
really.
And I hope that we will get back to that track and really invest in people and education, because we will so much profit from that investment.
Maybe not in our generation, but our kids' generation. They will survive.
Yeah, well said.
It's that Greek word. A wise man plants a tree in whose shadow he'll never sit. I mean, that's a Greek metaphor. Yeah. So let's plant the trees.
Let's plant the trees.
Dum, dum, dum.
I think that's the perfect ending, Erich.
Yeah.
So thank you very much for this very interesting conversation. And I know we're going to have a great AI
I'm looking
after
forward
work.
to the after discussions.
And then I promised to celebrate my birthday as well. So we'll see.
Congratulations.
Yes.
Yeah, it's
How old are you now?
49.
Baby.
So karaoke.
Karaoke, maybe. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Erich.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Erich.
Okay, guys.